Hey guys, I'm Hazel Clark, therapist and APPI Pilates instructor at Mountain Massage Company in the Lake District in the UK. And welcome along to this class, which is about probably just over half an hour or so. If you want to change your stability today, if you know that you are able to work at a higher level of some of the exercises, you are probably going to want to grab your small light weights or your 2 tins of beans, or something between like half a kilo and a kilo, works really well. You'll need a head cushion or a folded towel to pop under your head at times. If you've got access to something like a long foam roller, or you can get a bath towel and roll it into a sausage shape, I'll show you a few variations of how you can make exercises harder. So today's class, I will be demoing some basic moves, some beginner level, some novice level moves. So absolutely carry along with those if that's the level you're at the moment. If you know you can progress into higher levels of the exercises, feel free to go into those higher levels. I will try to demo some, but feel free to move on to them. You don't have to wait for me if you know what you're doing. So we're just going to take a small warm up in standing today, so we can start with our feet together, turn the toes out, turn the heels out, come into our parallel position. We're doing that little top to tail check, which we'll just recap on. This is your practice, so please be safe, work within your own limits. We want to plant the big toe, the little toe round to the heel. You want to imagine that there is a small blueberry nestled under the arch of both feet. You don't want to squash that blueberry, so we want that slight lift in the arch of the feet. The knees are soft, so just soften the knees, not too rigid. We come up through the legs, we find our neutral by just tilting our pelvis forwards and backwards, imagining that bowl of water, that pelvic bowl. We tip water out the front of the bowl, we tip water out the back of the bowl. Halfway in between is your neutral. Our rib cage is down, so we want to imagine there are springs attached from the ribs down to the pelvis, down to the hip bones, and those springs, or those braces, some people like to imagine, are just keeping us nice and solid through our centre, through our core. We switch on our Pilates centre by engaging our lower abdominal muscles here, so our transverse abdominis. Some people like to imagine the hip bones being drawn together, which tightens the lower abdominals. Some people like to imagine a low slung cowboy belt being done up a few notches tighter. Some people like to imagine a zipper being done up from pubic bone to belly button. Pelvic floor switched on by either imagining that tailbone sort of coming forward towards the pubic bone, or as if you need to stop yourself from going to the toilet. That works well for guys. Okay, shoulders are back and down, collarbones are nice and wide and smiley and open. The neck is long, the head is light on top of the spine. Imagine that you've got a small ball or a ripe peach or an apple tucked under your chin, and you want to hold that peach there. You don't want to squash it, but you don't want to let it drop. So somewhere in between, and that's our setup that we'll be coming back to. We're going to take a little warm up. So from here, we're just going to turn the toes out again, turn the heels out again, so we're slightly wider. And we're just going to come into a few little medium squats. If you know you're okay with squats, you can start to go deeper. So we're just waking the legs up, and we're waking the body up. Okay. So remember that little imaginary blueberry tucked under the arch of your feet. You can add weights in here if you want to make this harder. Okay, either continue with these small squats, or the next time we're going to raise up onto the balls of the feet, lower down and come back down into our squat. I'm going to show an alternative squat up against a wall for those that have problems. So you can bring your feet forward and you can slide down the wall and slide back up. This is a nice one if people struggle with squats or they feel any pressure underneath. Okay, so there's a couple of variations there. So carry on at your own level, shake your legs out wherever you need to, but we're just gonna, if you're okay with it, we can move a little bit deeper. Okay, if you want to, you can add your weights in. So we could take the arms up, make it a little bit harder. We could have the arms overhead and keep them overhead. That's harder still because it tests our stability. And in between, we can come up onto the balls of the feet. So we've got a few options here. Just going to do a couple more. So let's pick one. that challenges you but is achievable. Okay, let's make this the last one. And relax down there, lovely. I'm going to keep hold of these weights. You can pop them down and you don't have to have them at all. We're going to come into our walking. So with our walking, we're basically going to, if you start up on the balls of the feet, we're going to drop one heel, raise the opposite arm. We're going to drop the other heel, raise the opposite arm. So with this one, I want you to think about that pelvis staying neutral. So if you imagine where my line of my pelvis, where sort of the waistband of my trousers might be, I want you to think about that same level. So what I mean by that is not sort of swinging from side to side. So imagine that you're sort of trapped in a narrow corridor, very, very narrow, between two panes of glass, and you don't want to touch the walls or touch the pane of glass. And we want to keep that pelvis in neutral. Lovely. Okay, let's just do 4, 3, 2, and 1, and come down there. Shake the legs out if you need to. Okay, just going to pop these little weights down for a second. We're going to come into a slightly wider squat. So, see how the wide squats feel? You can go back to your wall squats, you can come back to your sort of pelvis level of hard squats as well. For those that are in sort of that slightly wider parallel, we're going to turn the feet out again, turn the heels out, turn the feet out again, turn the heels out. So we should be roughly maybe about mat width apart, so my feet are just ever so slightly wider than my mat. I'm just going to shuffle my feet in actually because I'm on the edge of the other mat. And my feet are slightly pointed out to the corners of the room, so sort of at about like maybe 10 to 2 or 5 to 1 if you're on an imaginary clock face. We're going to do some plie squats, so same thing, these can be done against the wall as well. We're just going to come down and raise back up. You can keep hold of your little weights to make this harder. Okay, you can breathe out as you move down and in as you come back up. Keep your centre switched on, your pelvic floor switched on. Especially if you feel any pressure as we squat down. So you can go back to the squats on the wall. I'll just demo those. Okay, we can do the same thing. We keep the chest up, we can breathe out as we come down and in as we come back up. You can have your weights in your hand to challenge yourself. Lovely. So we're going to do a few more of those. For those that want the extra challenge, I'm just going to pick my weights up. Let's come up onto the balls of the feet. We're going to stay on the balls of the feet as we squat down for 6, for 5. So wherever you're at, join me for 4. If you're on the wall, join me for 3. If you've got your heels down or heels up, join me for the last 2. Keep the heels up for the last 1 if you can, and then heels down. Lovely. So we should be feeling a tiny bit warmer. With this express class, we are going to move down onto the floor. So you can take a roll down here if you would like. We're going to do a couple of little exercises in kneeling, and then we're going to move on to our backs. So with our roll down, we want to grow tall first. We tuck the chin. We just let the eye gaze come forward. We let the shoulders round forward. Soft bend in the knee, centre switched on, lower abdominals, pelvic floor. Soft bend in the knees. We're going to articulate down one bone at a time, one joint at a time in our spine. Then the knees as you come down to the floor. If you want to pause the video and take another couple of roll up, roll downs, please feel free to do so. And when you're ready, join back in and we're going to come down onto the floor. We're just going to go for our cat in kneeling. So if anyone wants to challenge themselves, if you've got these small balls, you can pop the hands on the balls just to create a bit of instability. We want to be in our tabletop position to start with. And we're going to just start, you can level 1, we can just slide one leg away, come back along the floor, other leg away, come back along the floor. If you know you can move in diagonal pairs, feel free to do so. Otherwise, we're going to reach one leg away and float up for a slight variation on that level 1. Okay. You can just do arms, so we can slide one arm away and come back, the other arm away, so you've got a level that you can just move with your legs, that you can just move with your arms. We can go opposite arm and leg. Okay, or we can create instability by having our hand on a cushion or the weighted ball and have a weighted ball in the other arm to make it harder. I'm just going to stay on the same side for a few reps. Now watch what my back is doing or not doing. It wants to be like tabletop. We want to be able to balance something on and not sway from side to side when we change over. A lot of the time people swaying about the place as they change. Keep your hips fixed, so nice and quiet on the changeover. So if someone only saw your back, they would not know you were moving. Really quiet, so whether you are just moving one arm or one leg at a time, whether you're moving in diagonal pairs, whether you've got your weights, or whether you have got something to make your balance a bit trickier. Let's do another few. So you can also use a foam roller here and balance on that with your hands. This tests the shoulder girdle slightly more. Just anything to create a little bit of instability, so you have to work harder. Let's just do another two and another one there. Lovely, you can push back into your child's pose. Okay. If any back issues, take the knees a bit wider, sit the bottom back towards the heels and just reach the hands out in front. I've just got mine on my roller because that just raises the arms up slightly and it creates a bit more stretch in the lats. But you can have the arms just flat down on the floor, but it's quite nice to just raise them up and you get a bit more stretch down through the armpits and down through the lats. Lovely, okay. So we're going to come into a little bit of thigh stretch now, which is a great one for the quads and the hip flexors. So in this kneeling position, I want you to think about that pelvic bowl being nice and in neutral is the word I'm looking for. So we don't want to tip water out of the front or back of the bowl. You can have your arms in front. We're going to switch on our centre and we're just going to start to come back to our biting point and forward. Now the mistakes that a lot of people make in this one is they arch their back, in which case if that's you, I want you to tighten those imaginary springs that we spoke about between your ribs and your pelvis. As you come back, it just means the abdominals maybe aren't quite strong enough to hold you at that biting point there. They'll get there, don't you worry. The other thing that happens is people just sit back down. I don't mind that so much, to be honest. It still works the quads, and as long as that pelvis is staying in neutral, I see nothing wrong with that really, if the knees can take it, as long as you're not collapsing down on the knees. But ideally, we want to keep the body, imagine there's a rod through your spine, and we're just coming back. You can breathe out to come back and in to come forward. You can breathe out to come back and in to come forward. We can add in those weighted balls and in to come forward. If you want to make that challenge harder, either with or without a weight, let's take one arm overhead. Neck stays long, chin stays tucked in as if we're holding that right peach. The imaginary springs between my rib cage and my pelvis are switched on. My centre switched on, my pelvic floor is switched on, and I'm trusting my legs. I'm trusting the fronts of my legs. Let's just go for another two, and last one, and come back up. You might have noticed I wasn't going back very far in that exercise because the fronts of my legs were a little bit sore today. So it's absolutely always just working with where you're at any particular time. Right, we're going to come into a bit of kneeling side work now. So from this position, pop your arms out to the side and we're just going to tip over onto one hand. If you find that you can't comfortably lean in this position and you start to get cramp here, what it means is you probably just need to be raised up on something. I'm not sure where my Pilates blocks have gone, so I'm just going to have my hands on a couple of cushions, but ideally you might use a couple of books, so a firm surface, because otherwise an unstable surface might make it harder actually. So in this position, we've got the hand down, whether you're resting on a couple of books or whether you can reach the floor comfortably. We've got one leg out. I want you to bring this hip forward. I want you to open up your bottom hip towards me. What happens a lot of the times, people collapse into this position. So I want you to present your hip towards me. Okay, head stays nice and stable, so don't let the head drop down and don't have it too craned up. Imagine that rod going through your spine. For those that can, we're going to float the leg up to pelvis height, point the toes, we're going to kick forward, we're going to flex the ankle, and we're going to kick back. If that's too much for you at the moment, I want you to sweep the toes forward on the floor and sweep the toes back. So wherever you're at, let's go. 4, another 6, another 5, another 4. Keep the leg high for 3. Sweep the floor if that's where you're at for 2. And last one. Lovely, guys. Come safely out of that position. Give the hip a little pat if you need to. We're going to reverse over on the opposite side. So wherever you're at, whether you're sweeping the floor, or whether you are able to float the legs up, I want you to really push that front hip out towards me, so show your bottom hip towards me. Head's nice and stable, centre switched on, pelvic floor switched on. We're going to either sweep the leg back and forth in line with the body, or if we need to, the leg is down and we just glide the leg forward and glide the leg back. So there's always options. You could add in a weighted ball here, couldn't you? Or you could add in something unstable under the balancing hand as well. That would make it harder. Let's go for another 6. Another 5. Breathing out. Breathing in. Another 4. Another 3. Another 2. And last one. Lovely, guys. So you might have noticed that that was working our hips and our glute muscles, just from a slightly different position. Okay, we're going to come and have a lay down on our backs now. So for most of you, you will have a small folded towel or a small cushion under your head, and we'll be in our Pilates rest position or Pilates setup position. For some of you, you may want to challenge the stability of your pelvis, and we can use that long foam roller or that rolled up bath towel. So you might want to pause the video and go and grab that if you've not got that to hand. You might also want your small weights to hand as well. So I'm just going to demo some lower level stuff first. So we're just going to come into our one leg stretch. So we've got one leg down. We can bring the other one up to tabletop. Reach out as if you want to reach something halfway up the wall, come back to tabletop and come back down. So that's our first level that we can work at. Or we can be in double leg tabletop, tighten through the abdominals, deepen that connection. We can be in this double leg tabletop, that same move out with the leg. Now back wants to stay in neutral here, so we want that neutral spine. We don't want to be imprinting the spine in an unnatural way along the floor, and we also don't want to be arching. Neck and head stay nice and relaxed, and we're just reaching forward with one leg. So if you need to take a rest at any point, you can hug the knees in, rock them from side to side. I'm just going to show you how you can make that harder by lying either on your rolled up towel or a long foam roller. So we've got our spine laid down along the roller. Very important that the head and the neck are supported by whatever you're laying on as well. And we can have one leg up and we can reach out, come back in. I've got a light touch on the floor. Lovely. Or we can be in double leg tabletop and continue on with our one leg stretch. So wherever you're at, we can always make it simpler and we can always make it harder. You can try to have one arm balanced off the floor. Ooh. You can try to have 2 arms balanced on the floor. I don't think I can do that. Ooh, maybe I can do it for 1. And let's go for another 4. Wherever you're at, another 3, another 2, and another 1. So if you haven't already, let's hug the knees in towards the chest. So you can either do 1 at a time if you're on your roller or your towel, or you can do 2 at once. Lovely. Okay. Really nice, guys. we're going to come into our abdo prep. So I'm just going to stay on the roller, but you can absolutely be on the floor with that head cushion tucked under. So I'm going to set my centre, so lower abdominals, pelvic floor, and lower back in neutral. I'm going to have my hands just behind my head, so elbows are in peripheral vision, the neck is nice and long and relaxed and loose. I'm going to curl up, so I want you to imagine the space between your rib cage and your pelvis shortening as you come up and lengthening as you come back down. Imagine those springs that we talked about tightening, so they're shortening to pull me up, lengthening to come back down. A lot of people lead by the chin in this exercise, so I really want you to stay nice and relaxed through the neck and nice and relaxed through the chin. Okay, so really having to work hard through those abdominals and come back down. So harder is having the arms reaching forward towards the skirting border, towards the feet. Again, the neck stays nice and long. I want you to imagine that you're holding that ripe peach under your chin, and the work is being done here. So we're shortening from here, and we're lengthening from here. We're shortening from here, and we're lengthening from here. Let's do another couple. Wherever you're at, whether you're laying on the floor, on the roller, on the towel. And then we're going to come in to, you can have the hands down if you're laying on something. We're going to come into a one leg stretch with an oblique prep now. So, you can start with that one leg stretch that we did before. Okay, if we were at level 1, whether you're on the floor or laying on the roller. Lovely. Or we can come up into that oblique prep, so that's when we come up on a diagonal. We show our armpit to our opposite hip. And as we reach away, we reach the elbow away, and as we come back in with everything. So everything reaches away, let's stay on the same side, and everything reaches in. I've got one leg down, because this one's slightly trickier to do on the roller and might come up into double leg tabletop in a second. Okay. If this is too much for you, you can work the leg, and then we can just do the oblique prep, so you can have both legs back down, and we come up and over this time. So our obliques are in diagonal pairs, so think opposite armpit to opposite hip as you come up and over. You're painting a little arc, a little rainbow shape. Okay. And if you're going opposite leg and arm, we're just going to carry on this same side for another couple. So you can always take one element away, or you can add an element in to make things harder. I'm going to try and come up in double leg tabletop. Let's see if I can do that. Ooh, I've got myself confused. I'm going to come in and take everything out. Okay, I can do that. Got one hand on the floor and a light touch, and out. So breathing out to go away, and in to come back up. Let's just try one or two more, and then we're going to swap to the other side. Lovely. Oh, hug the knees in if you need to. That was a little tough for you, wasn't it? Okay, so let's build it up on the other side. So I'm going to stay on my roller, but again, you can be on the floor with your head supported. So we've got either the option of doing the lower abdominals again in our one leg stretch for a very simplistic one, or we can add in just the oblique prep on the opposite side, so hand behind the head, and we come up and over. So I'm coming up and arcing over. I want to show my left armpit to my right hip, and you can breathe out as you come up and in as you come down. Or we can start in this crunch, so everything's in, and then we take everything away and come back in. So, breathing out to take everything away, breathing in to come back in, breathing out to take everything away, breathing in to come back in. I'm going to try to come up in my double leg tabletop. Okay, breathing out to take everything away, ooh, and breathing in to come back in. So wherever you're at, we're going to do 6 more. Take a rest if you need to. Okay, I think we've got 5 more. Neutral spine for 4. Abdominal switched on, ooh, for 3. Pelvic floor switched on for the last 2. And hold it together for the last one. Lovely, guys. So I'm going to come off my roller for a little bit, just because it's quite a firm one, and it's just starting to press into my spine a little bit. So I'm just going to put that one to one side, but you get the idea with that in terms of using it for a bit of, to create sort of an unstable base to make things a little bit harder. Okay, so that was just quite a nice little abdominal section. We're going to come into a little bit of a glute section now. So with our glutes, we don't need our head cushion. You can take that away. Some of you might want to pop that between your knees actually. If you do have anything like a long TheraBand or a Pilates circle, you can always try some of these glute bridges with the circle around the outside of the leg, or tie the band around the outside of the leg. Or some of you might want to try it by having the circle on the inside of the leg. So I'm actually going to do that because I'm going to work my inside adductor muscles a little bit more. Okay, so bridge level one, we're going to roll up. So I want you to curl the spine up, so we tuck that imaginary tail between our legs, and our tailbone gently lifts off, and then we roll up. So it's a bit like a roll down, isn't it? And we just come up probably to about bra line level, or where you might wear a heart rate monitor. And then we're going to peel back down. So imagine you're peeling, sticking each bone by bone back down until we come back into our neutral. Okay, let's go again. So curling up, so this is our bridge at level one, but maybe we've made it harder by adding a band or a TheraBand, or we can create an unstable surface. Carry on, guys, with a few reps while I play around with this by having our feet on something, so either our small weights or up on a roller. It makes the hamstrings work harder. So wherever you're at, let's carry on just for another couple at this level. Good. So for those that can, we're going to curl up, we're going to straighten one leg away, we're going to straighten the other leg away, and then we're going to curl back down. For those that can, you can stay up in the bridge for a few repetitions. So for those that struggle with this level, just going to get rid of that roller for a second, what we can do to work up to it is we can peel up and we can lift a heel, lower a heel, lift another heel, lower a heel, and then peel back down. So it's a sort of a way in to being able to work at that slightly higher level of the bridge. So wherever you're at, whether you've already moved on to a higher level or whether you're working your way up to it, let's just challenge ourselves. So the idea here is that we keep the pelvis nice and level as we transition across. So the mistake that I see with a lot of people is the hip drops as they straighten because the opposite glute isn't strong enough to hold them up. So I want you to really think about pressing into the floor with the other leg as you straighten one away. So I'm going to think about pressing into the floor with my left leg as I straighten the right leg away. And now I'm pressing into the floor with the right leg as I straighten the left leg away. So wherever you're at, you can come back down when you need to. You can hug the knees in to the chest when you need to. Let's do another couple at whatever level that you are at. So hips nice and high. Lovely. Good. And let's peel back down. Really nice, guys. Okay. I want you to walk your feet just slightly closer to your bottom this time. And we're going to bring the feet and the knees together. And then we're going to roll up into our bridge. And then I want you to open the knees and close the knees. And you can lower back down if you need to. So neutral spine, we peel up. We're going to open the knees, we're going to close the knees. You can peel back down if you need to. Otherwise, we're going to stay up and we're going to open and close. Open and close. Open and close. Let's do another 6. Another 5. Another 4. Another 3. 2, and last one, and peel back down. Lovely stuff. Okay, give those knees a little hug in. Really nice. Okay. I want you to just come over onto your side. And we've just got a little bit of mobility stuff to do. And then we're nearing the end of this little section today. So, come and have, sorry, I just stood up, you don't have to. So come and have a little turnover onto your hands and knees. We're just going to work through a couple of little cat stretches into a couple of little thread the needles. So with our cat, I want you to really think about spreading the shoulder blades away from each other as much as possible. Think about where your shoulder blades are, where your scapulars are. Can you feel them travelling around the rib cage as you push up? And then I want you to think about the shoulder blades drawing together as the chest lowers and the eye gaze comes towards the skirting board. So separating those shoulders as you come up and allowing the scapulars to travel together as you lower down. Carry on with a couple of reps of those. So guys, we can make this a little bit of a stability exercise as well as a mobility one for the spine. We can have those hands on that unstable surface. So I really want you to think about moving from the rib cage here rather than the lower back. A lot of people have very mobile lumbar spines and very stiff mid back. So I really want you to think about that your ribs are moving, your chest is moving. Let's just do one more. Okay, and with our thread the needle, we can use, now I'll show you with a little ball, but you can use a roller as well. With our thread the needle, you can have your hand on something and we can roll it away and come back up. So we're just going to thread through for now. Just going to thread through and come back up. We're going to thread through and come back up. So this is a mobility exercise for our spine. Adds in a bit of rotation. Lovely. There we go. Really nice. Let's make that your last one. Come over and try this side. So I'm just going to demo it from the opposite side, but show you how you can add a roller in now. So we can roll the back of the hands on the roller. We can roll it forward and bring it back up. So we're just threading through for the moment. Just rotating in one direction just for the time being. Good, lovely stuff. Okay, let's do a couple more on this side. So hopefully you've changed side and we've done a few on both sides there. I'm just going to put my roller to one side because we're going to start to have a little roll back up now. So from this position, I want you to tuck the toes under. We're going to walk the hands back. If you can come into this low squat if your body allows. You can have a little hang there just for a second to allow the heels and the feet to have a stretch. And then we can connect the heels down, the tailbone comes up towards the ceiling, and then I want you to think about engaging the muscles around the bottom, around the back passage, and we're going to tip our tailbone down towards the floor and we're going to roll up and restack the spine bone by bone until we come back up. So come and have a little stand in your parallel. We're going to go for a little bit of bow and arrow just to finish off with today. So standing bow and arrow, you can take a soft bend in the knees. I want you to imagine, I'm just going to turn to the side, I want you to imagine that you're drawing an arrow back in a bow, but we can watch the hand as it comes back. We're going to release it and we're going to come back round. So I'm just going to stay on the same side. You can alternate if you like. So I'm drawing the bow back, I'm rotating through my rib cage, my hips are staying facing forward. I'm watching my hand if your neck allows. If not, don't worry, you can stay facing forward. We're going to do another couple on this side and then we're going to switch sides, or you can keep alternating if that's what you're doing. So I want you to, as we come back, you might need to push this hip forward slightly. So the hip sort of wants to come with us. So I want you to really think about pushing that hip forward in order to keep both hip bones facing forward. Okay, let's swap sides if you were doing one side, or keep going if you're alternating. I think we're going to do 4 on this other side. Good, so working, we can breathe out, we can breathe in. Actually, try breathing in as you come back. Let's try that. I think that's going to feel a bit better. Just breathing in. You can feel the rib cage up. So I'm having to push my left hip forward as my left hand comes back. That's it. Let's drive that arrow back again and forward. I'm going to do 2 more. So I'm pulling the arrow back in the bow. I'm going to watch my hand as it comes forward. I'm going to make this my last one. Good. And come back. So just a tiny little bit of balance work to finish with. Okay, so let's just try a little bit of just stand first. We're just going to close our eyes for 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, open your eyes. Let's come up. I didn't do anything whilst your eyes were closed, I promise. Okay, we're going to raise our heels up just onto, it doesn't have to be high, just think like a centimetre off the ground. Okay, so let's not make this too hard for ourselves. So literally just lift the heels, float the heels off. Okay, close your eyes. 4, 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And place the heels down. Harder, right? Okay, let's do that one more time. So if you found that super easy, you can absolutely go higher up onto the balls of the feet. If you found that a challenge, like I did, I'm just going to float my heels again. So I'm literally just, this is heels down, okay? And this is where I am. So I'm just a centimetre off the floor. Okay, relax your shoulders, guys. Close the eyes. Let's go for 5 seconds. 4, 3, feel the ground for 2, hold it for the last one, place the heels down and open your eyes. Well done, guys. So that was our quick little class today. So we've done a tiny little bit of work for a few different parts of the body there, a little bit of mobility and a little bit of strength work. So hopefully it's given you some ideas of how to make exercises a little bit more challenging and use some of the small equipment if you've got anything to hand, or use household stuff as well in order to make things slightly more challenging in a class. So if you're joining in one of our Zoom classes, you might want to grab a few extra bits to have them to hand in order to challenge yourself. As always, if you've got any questions, you can contact us. You will find me and all my details at mountainmassageco.com. I've been Hazel. Thank you very much.